Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're going to talk a little bit about the components of your 800-hour International Association of Yoga Therapists yoga teacher training. And I'd like to ask some questions so we can help educate our colleagues, our companions, our community members about what the training comprises and how your experience has been. So first, let's pose the question, how is the 800-hour training different from the 300-hour training? What got added or deepened or introduced to you during this training? Yes, Maureen, and then Adrian.
I think for me, with the 800-hour training, it allowed me to go deeper into my um, internal understandings of yoga as opposed to the physical medicine part of it. And so I learned a lot about myself from the teachings that we did.
Thank you. Adrian.
Yeah. Well, first, I want to say that when I took the 500-hour level yoga therapy training with you, that was truly one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I feel the same about the decision to do the 800-hour training with you, which is a deeper dive than the 300-hour training. And the practicums, the way we do our practicums is different and wonderful. And I just love the blending of the real authentic yogic teachings and the real authentic yoga philosophy and how that blends with modern science. And so we get to see these things through two different paradigms that are actually, that really, really affirm each other so well. So if you are kind of more of a sciencey nerd, there's so much material there for you. And if you're not, there's so much material there for you. And it just feels like, I just love learning, and I'm looking forward to continuing to serve others as well as deepening my own self-awareness.
Thank you, Adrian. Somebody else? Christine.
I think for me too, I would say there was a huge deepening that happened. I think at the end of the 300-hour training, I really felt like I could almost work with clients since I'm primarily a therapist. I kind of felt like, there was this task of integrating yoga therapy into my work with clients. And I felt like I was sort of like on that edge, but I still felt pretty scared to introduce it to people. And then with this training, it just went so much deeper, and I could feel myself at a certain point, just there was no question but what I wanted to introduce this to people, to be trying it. And I felt like the confidence was there a lot more with this training. There was something that just clicked into place, and we get to do mentorship meetings in this practice, or this 800-hour, which it's just so great to be able to practice and get input from Sarah Joy. And yeah, I really appreciated that level of depth and level of integration and connection with people.
Thank you, Christine. Sarah.
Coming from kind of the opposite end of you, Christine, with not a background in psychotherapy or American or Western psychology, I felt like, although we started learning the inquiry process in the 300 level, I felt like this second dive was much deeper, and I was given more tools to work with and a lot of time to practice those tools online with the group or in the practicum, and with mentorship all along the way, like Christine has mentioned before, both through the spreadsheet written form and also meeting on Monday evenings to in person get mentorship, not just from Sarah Joy, but also input from my colleagues, which I really appreciated.
Thank you. Anybody else? The difference for you from the 300 to the 800? Laura.
Yeah, I would like to just echo what everybody has said so far. I feel like in the previous trainings, I was given some tools, some really fantastic tools, and I let those kind of marinate for a while. But then embarking on this training just really opened up just a world of exploration internally, and then just being able to put these tools into practice has just been phenomenal. And I guess my self-esteem and my ability to teach and work with individuals has grown immensely. So I'm so appreciative, and I look forward to continuing on even beyond the training, just so we can all stay involved and continue growing and learning. Great.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, another question that we've been asked is, how is it to be in an online yoga therapy training? What has your experience been of gathering online over the last year with COVID-19 and being here with each other? Anne, and then Kelly.
So for me, initially, I just couldn't imagine how that would work, because when I did the 300-hour, I loved that feeling of being together as a community, the energy that we shared, and I didn't know how that would work online. But now, having done the online, I have to say that it's worked better for me. There's so many things I love about it. I'm able to be more relaxed because we have our time away that I can really sit and process and reflect. And I personally need that quiet time. So the pacing felt really, really kind of perfect. So when we came together, we had, there's plenty of opportunity to connect. The Zoom breakout rooms are great. The sessions are recorded, so we can go back and look at that information. And I also have this, I just felt way more relaxed. I don't have to travel. There's, sometimes I would travel to the yoga training, I would feel great. And then by the time I got home, I was all sort of frazzled again. So there were so many benefits to doing it online. And I would say I feel equally connected to this cohort than I did with the others.
Thank you. Kelly, and then Sarah.
I was going to say the exact same thing Anne did. I'm thinking of all the fossil fuels that we are saving on here. We get to come together, and I do feel this deep connection to each one of the members here. So it's pretty amazing. When we have breaks, I feel like the breaks are really timely so that you don't get screen fatigue. We have plenty of breaks. And then the breaks, you're at home, so you can cook food for yourself and you can take a nap if you need to. You can really turn in more and tune in to what your needs are to stay at a good level for your training. And yeah, I'm just really appreciative. You also have your animals at home, perhaps. So it's kind of like that added bonus. But yeah, I would prefer it this way.
Thank you. And Sarah.
Anne and Kelly touched on all of it. I just felt like I could take better care of myself, better care of my mental health, my spiritual health, my food. Not that I don't like Elephant's Deli, but it was very nice to be able to eat home prepared, healthy food. And like you said, take a rest, sleep in your own bed at night, not get in your car and drive to the training, things like that, and take your dog for a walk. But more importantly, I also felt that through the process of our exchanges and watching the online course develop, it inspired me to develop my own online teaching skills or yoga therapy skills. I don't teach classes online, an occasional sub, but primarily I do my yoga therapy online. And I can see how that might be part of my future. And I really appreciate the skill development and even the inspiration. I had never thought of doing that before, but it's working. And now I've moved to Seattle, but I'm keeping clients in Portland, and that's really a gift. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Laura.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said so far. At the beginning of this training, I mean, I think just the fact that it was online just allowed me access to take part in it. So the accessibility and just learning, like Sarah said, learning how to teach online. I mean, what an awesome skill to have and be able to have such a further reach. I also think it was incredible, and I always like boasted about it with friends and family that I had class with individuals in England, or I had class, I was learning from people in India this morning. It's just amazing to me. So this is definitely my preferred way. And I love that there's also that opportunity to, at some point, be able to gather in person, but that we can just really also have this means of learning together. It's pretty awesome.
Adrienne and then Maureen.
Yeah, of course, I second everything that's already been said. For me, I would not have been able to do this training if it had not been online, because I don't live that close to Portland, and this made it possible for me, and it also made it affordable for me, because when I used to come to Portland, I would have to find an Airbnb or scramble around to find a place to sleep, which is, doesn't always feel very grounding, for one thing. And also it can be a huge expense. And so this made it possible for me. And I really appreciate that. And I also think that the format of doing it on Zoom doesn't detract in the slightest bit from the deep connection to Sangha that I feel, which is just so incredibly rewarding. So yeah.
Thank you, Adrienne.
Thank you.
Maureen.
I just wanted to add another advantage to having it be on Zoom is everything is recorded so that we can go back and look at any class that we want to. So I think that's a huge advantage.
Yes, you can keep reviewing. We don't get everything the first go through, even when we're in person there taking it in as well as we can. Sometimes we're getting the somatic, sometimes we're getting the heart, sometimes we're getting the mind. When we go back to review, we may have another piece of information kind of infiltrate our psyche or our body. Yeah. Anything more on this? Okay. Yes, next question. Your life experience of being here, the transformation to your own life over the last year. Sarah and then Christine.
I felt like the course, although every time one takes a training, there's a bit of a wake-up call to commit even further, to address one's sadhana. But I feel like this one really asked it of me because I was working with people that one-on-one, and in order to be able to listen with my whole self and respond with my whole self, became clear very quickly that there really isn't a choice. And I really appreciated that. I needed that little nudge to just take it one step further, where I really feel committed to using my practices and opening classic studies occasionally, just diving deeper into both the classic yoga and my daily practice. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And then Christine.
Yeah, I was just thinking about last night when I was sharing something with my husband was there, and we have a friend, and I was really sharing from my heart with this friend about something that I felt like could really help them. And this morning, my husband said to me, he said, something's happening with you. He said, he was like, I feel like you're coming into your own, and that I can just feel your heart so much. And I think really that is what this program has done for me. It's helped by getting deeper into the yogic teachings, and also by, seeing all those things that are blocking me from really feeling that internal essence. It's allowed me to access that a lot more. And really, the thing that I wanted so much before even I started the 300-hour training was to really feel like I could just, kind of do things from within, that it wasn't all going to be this sense of performance. I just really feel like that's the performance thing is disappearing, and I am much more able to just live in the moment and be present. And that feels so good in my professional life as well as my personal life. So I'm very grateful.
Thank you. Somebody else had their hand go up? Kelly and then Laura.
I think that we're given these tools in this program, and I've seen time and time again us being really open and vulnerable and offering what comes up for us without trying to hide it. And I've seen myself and others in this group become more aware of things that are happening for them. And as we practice the yoga therapy on each other, I've seen us become a little bit more aware and more healed. And so it's been really great to be able to heal personally in this group and watch you become a little more aware and healed also, before we can offer that to other people.
Thank you, Kelly. Let's go to Laura.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with everybody. I just I feel like I've just gained so much, just so much more insight into myself and kind of my stuff, and then along with others and my relationships with others. And it's just seeing this evolution take place, and it's pretty powerful. And then noticing how people respond to that, people in my personal life, family and friends, and them noticing that, yeah, there has been these shifts taking place. And that is just so cool to feel that and to hear that. And it just feels so good. It just feels really good. So yeah, I think there's just continuous transformation going on. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And then Adrian, did your hand go up there?
It did not, but I would be happy to share how this has affected me personally, or how it continues to affect me, or just, I don't know if that's a great word, affect, but I can say that I feel a real sense of purpose, and real joy in the work that I'm doing. And of course, a desire to just keep going and keep learning and evolving with it. And it's just, this is an open-ended practice. There's no end to it. There's no feeling like I've learned enough now, but I've learned enough to use the tools that I've learned, and to know that I just want to keep on going and learning more and evolving and growing and serving.
Thank you. Wonderful. And now how about if we talk for a few moments about having the mentoring meetings and getting together in the process really of looking at the work that you've been doing, and then practicing in the mentoring meetings and seeing videos of clients that I'm sharing with you in those meetings. What might you say about that? Christine?
Well, those have been really great. I feel like I've learned so much from watching Sarah Joy work, and kind of just seeing, because I do really well seeing modeling of how yoga therapy works. And even I've gotten so many ideas about how, I can blend the yoga therapy with my psychology practice. And so just watching those has been very helpful. And then with us watching them as a group, then we can talk about them and really have a sense for what is, just take that in. And then there's been the opportunity to practice. And because this is such a safe space, I mean, I feel very connected to everybody, and I feel very much like it's totally safe. And so just kind of feel like there isn't that, anxiety about this has to go right. And it's one of those things where I can feel like I'm going to, maybe work with somebody, and Sarah Joy will jump in, and she'll have, some things that might help me, might give me a sense of a different direction than I might have taken before. And that's just, that feels very, feels very affirming and like a good way to learn for me. So
Thank you. Wonderful. Laura.
Yeah, I think the mentorship meetings have been great because I find that when there's things that I'm nervous to do, or I'll avoid them. And so, yeah, getting on and practicing with our peers, as daunting as a task that it felt, and it still feels at times, it's getting easier. So it's just the practice, and seeing you in practice with individuals. And it's just really great to be able to collaborate outside of the training. So it's been really powerful.
Thank you. Maureen?
And mentoring sessions for me has been good because I've been able to practice teaching, and you've been able to step in real time, and it feels like a natural flow. It doesn't feel like I'm getting interrupted when I'm working with the client. So it's been really good, and I felt very supported. So I think that that's a really good opportunity for us to practice and get feedback in real time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maureen. Sarah?
I was just thinking the same thing, Maureen, and also how this format actually makes it easier. Because Sarah Joy can slip in and out, and if you don't want to see her, you can put her on the, I don't know, you can press a button so that she's coming and she can give you advice on screen. And I think it would be harder to do in person. You'd have to be walking around a lot. Whereas you can, with this online mentoring, you can just float through the various rooms and check on us and give us some feedback and some support. And I think that's lovely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I really enjoy giving the mentoring. It's one of my favorite parts of this work. It's very spontaneous and fresh, and I keep seeing how much you're all growing and evolving. And when you take in a piece of information and I see it coming through you, it's really life-giving, very energizing for me. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk for a moment about realistic time commitments outside of Zoom. What has that been like? What have you felt was required of you outside of Zoom, and how was your commitment to that? Laura?
I think going into it, if I were to have another opportunity to start fresh and go into it again, I would dedicate more time to the other aspects, the practicum hours, and the charting, and having a bit more availability to assist with some of the classes, because those will be some hours that will need to take place in order for the IAYT certification. However, I still have time to take care of these things. But ideally, I think that would be just more valuable to me if I would have just kind of been more mindful of those commitments. So I would feel a little less stressed at times about trying to accomplish it all near the end. So, yeah.
Good to pace ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Sarah?
It was a little rocky at the start, but I found a rhythm. And two of the things that I really appreciated I did do 50 of my 150 hours assisting trainings, and it is such a, it's like, almost feels like cheating because I felt like I was getting this full review and getting to look at things that I had looked at before, but with more knowledge inside. So I had a different view. And I also did practice chaperoning, and that's a good skill to develop. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who wonder, the other 100 hours, it came to about 3 or 4 private sessions a week, with about a half an hour after the session to fill out the form if I was very good and did it right away and didn't distract myself. And it's workable, but I did feel like I had to organize myself around it and not just hope that it happened.
Anne. Thank you, Sarah.
Just to add to what Sarah was just saying, so I did not do 50 of my 150 hours assisting because I was working and couldn't do that. So I really had to budget my time, like Sarah was saying. So I just saw private clients for the 150 hours. What was so helpful was that it kind of forced me to really be reflective and write down. It took me about maybe 20 minutes to a half hour after each client to write down what I did. But when I look back on it now, I can see the growth from the first hour to 150, and I can look back at it and not feel shame, like, oh my goodness, I did that at my first visit. But I've grown in such a way that I can look at it and say, wow, like I've really changed. I've really come into my own. And that's something that I needed practice on, was how will I implement all of this yoga therapy. And so I would just say that it took about, 4 or 5 clients a week to be consistent, but also just take your time. I mean, you will get it done. I would say just focus more on the reflective process of seeing clients. You'll make mistakes. But because we're being mentored, we're learning as we go. So it was really valuable for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, Adrienne.
Yeah, so I just want to say, as Anne already said, not everybody is going to have 4 or 5 private clients per week, but you can go at your own pace. That's what I've been doing. And I think that works just fine. And I also think that the tracking is really helpful for us to, again, look back and see where, your own progression about what you're doing and how, how as we learn things, how we're integrating that into our work. So it gives us great perspective as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay, and how about this question? The modules all had content that you were either building from an existing foundation or actually being introduced to some new material. How was the overall scope of the content in the modules for you? A lot to think back over a whole year. Adrienne, go ahead.
No, I just the question just filled me with so much excitement that it was hard for me to spit out words. I felt like the content was really varied and really incredible. And I'm sure that after each module, I'm sure each one of us had sort of feelings like, I want to go in that direction more, even though the modules themselves were really comprehensive. The guest teachers were amazing. Just each and every one was amazing. Just even thinking about it, I'm kind of riveted by remembering all of it. And yeah, I think the content was just fantastic and sometimes overwhelming, but then we had time to digest and also on our own to explore it further. There were always resources for us to go to go even deeper into something if we wanted to.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you, Adrienne. And somebody else? I think I saw a couple facial affects change when I asked the question. Let's go to Sarah.
I want to add to what Adrienne had to say, which I agree with all of that. When I reflect back, I think about starting at least very early with the chakras and the Nod yoga. And I feel like the curriculum built on each module built on knowledge that we had, even though new stuff was being introduced, other things we had already looked at had been revisited, but it was done intuitively or logically. I don't know which part of your brain did it, but maybe a mixture of the two. That it built in a way that I was able to handle the information for module 11 when it was presented. Whereas if you had presented that with module 1, I might have decided I was way over my head and this wasn't going to work. Mm-hmm. So I just really appreciate how you built the curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a really good observation. Anne?
Yeah, again, I just wanted to add to what Sarah just said, that we began with the breath work, which was like the foundation of all of it. It was breath, then chakras, and then we progressed from there. And yeah, if I had jumped in module 11, I would have been so overwhelmed, but it really did build on itself. So I just had to second what you said, Sarah, because that was really important. And each time, like what you said, Adrienne, like the breath work, I was like, oh, I want to focus on that. And then we did the chakras and I thought, oh, I'm going to focus on that. And then we did Ayurveda, and it's just all so beautiful. And it's expansive, and it sort of lit all these fires in me to reflect even deeper about how I share my voice in all of this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anything else that wants to be shared on this question? Well, I'll ask one more question for right now, because many people, you did not know most of our presenters before you came in, and people may not be familiar with these presenters. So Mike and David and Heidi and Judith and Saras and Susan, Dorga, Jeff, Langdon, Chris, Sarah Joy. How was it to meet my colleagues, my teachers, these co-conspirators in this field? Anne and then Christine.
I think Laura said it in the beginning, how you were saying to people, oh, I get to learn from all these different people. And I was doing the same thing. I'd say, we got to have Sarah Joy's teachers from India, and people were able to join us from all over. And for me, it gets me really excited, because it just shows how the potential for yoga therapy in our world, and the need for yoga therapy to be integrated and accepted as an alternative therapy. And so to hear all these different disciplines talk about how they value yoga therapy and what we have to offer was really validating for me taking this course. It's like, oh yeah, they see the value in this. All these different fields that I so highly regard see the value in yoga therapy. So I loved that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, they see the value, and they're kind of humbled to see the depth and breadth of yoga too. If they're coming from a Western lens and they see, oh, how did you guys know these things? Oh, this is also in yoga. Wow, look at that application of what you're doing. That's amazing. Christine?
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like, Sarah Joy, you brought us into your community of people, and we got a chance to see, like some of these people that you've been connected with for a really long time. So we got to see some of the roots of where you came from, and then also this community that you've built over time. And it feels like each of these people, even though they were, a presenter for a period of time and we interacted with them for a period of time, I feel like I could go back to each one of them and ask them questions. And in fact, I just did ask Heidi a question the other day. And so, yeah, there's like, it just felt like, okay, we know them on this level now, that just feels like they're a resource for us. So it really feels like this community got bigger with the addition of the presenters.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Laura?
Yeah, same. I feel like we were given this amazing opportunity to learn from really the cream of the crop in the field of yoga, and to think, wow, this is yoga too. I'll be darned, this is yoga too. So all these ways in which I had no idea how to weave in the art of yoga and then yoga therapy, it's just like pretty amazing to learn that in every aspect and every specialty that these people were bringing forth, that yoga was played such a key role in that. So that was really inspiring.
Thank you. Wonderful. Anybody else on this one? Okay, so then let's talk for a few minutes. What is the difference from your lens between a yoga teacher and a yoga therapist? Now that you're on this part of the arc of those things, what is the difference for you when you're in a yoga teacher role or yoga therapist role? What do you sense the difference to be in the professional field as people look towards yoga teachers and yoga therapists? I can share my perspective first if that would be helpful. So because I'm doing both and have been for quite some time, what I sense in myself when I'm teaching a yoga class is that I'm in my yoga teacher role, but my yoga teacher is informed by my yoga therapist, and all this sort of background that I have, all this resource is also coming through to the public class. In my yoga teacher role, I want to help people with the tapas phase of their yoga therapy journey, of their yoga journey. We're adding the word therapy because contemporary times are looking at giving classifications to different ways that we work with people. So in the yoga classroom, I'm helping with the tapas phase, this development of your personal sadhana, your personal sense of sangha, your community, the dinacharya. So when I set the schedule for the class, what time of day is my class? How am I helping people to sense the routine of dinacharya, the sangha of who they practice with, and the tapas, the discipline of actually having a practice, a home practice. So sadhana, sangha, and dinacharya. And in the public class, I can elicit questions from the svadhyaya phase of yoga, the journey of yoga. But I can't uniquely answer people's svadhyaya questions. I can't uniquely interact with them there because I can propose it or elicit it or point in that direction, and then they can cogitate on it or digest it or have an insight during the class for sure. But in yoga therapy, we help people much more deeply in the svadhyaya phase of yoga. So the inquiry into the root tendrils, as I like to call them, the root tendrils of what's been held as the issues are in the tissues, what has been held in their body that's still pulling the invisible marionette strings of their mind and their life. I can't really go into that in the public class, but in the one-to-one work I'm doing, I can. I can also help modify somebody's tapas to really be suited to them and where they are with their life stage. And because we get to know their dosha a bit more, we also learn about their adaptations. How do they adapt to those long root tendrils that they may or may not know about? And if their adaptation is driving how they're showing up for their tapas, so their pitta out of balance is driving how they do their practice, or the root tendril of never good enough is pushing their pitta to do something with their tapas, I can help modify that to be tailored to them so that we can sense what's going to flourish forth from releasing a pattern, a way of being in their life that's blocking the svadhyaya from being really transformational. Because our patterns, most of the patterns we've had for a super long time are actually protective mechanisms, as you guys know. And a protective mechanism prevents us from growing and preserves what once was our infrastructure. So protective mechanisms are preventative and preservative. They keep us held, like we have a fossil inside, and the fossil is determining how we're going to think and act and behave and so on. So in the one-to-one work, I feel I can really help people with sort of unpacking that and getting their tapas individualized and then deep into the svadhyaya. And then with the Ishvari Pranidhana, the phase of yoga that is the surrender, releasing what has been, we see what has always been there, what their essential and indwelling nature is. Releasing the outer coverings and then seeing what shines through. That is possible to elicit that in a yoga class, and people may sense it in their meditation or their shavasana, but to have it be an abiding kind of sticking thing in them, something that really transforms the internal structure, the one-to-one relationship right there, while they're having the immediacy and the intimacy of that experience, and I'm witnessing it, we're having healing by having a witness, a present person who's very with your experience and who can affirm, so that it lasts longer and goes deeper in their system. So that one-to-one witnessing, I feel, is really, really essential. So essential that yoga was designed as a one-to-one relationship so many generations ago, thousands of years ago. In Western psychotherapy, we might call those moments a disconfirming experience, the disconfirming of what once was or what somebody believed about themselves. And as it's getting disconfirmed, if it's in a field of mutuality and reciprocity, their neurobiological system gets updated. That's how we might say in the Western lens. And it does kind of require the witnessing to be there. We are holding space for, and temporarily we are their witness sitting on the outside, but we feel it as self unto self. So from the yoga teacher, even at the 500-hour level, to the yoga therapist at the 800-hour level, I would say this is one of the most important differences, that we learn the real art of svadhyaya, the science of tailoring the tapas to the individual, and how to hold that space for the Ishvari Pranidhana. Is there anything that you want to add to that, or anything you'd ask about that? Anne?
I'll just add, or actually just reiterate what you said about the witness. So in my experience, from what I hear from clients, that's the biggest piece, is they feel seen, they feel witnessed, and then that empowers them to get even closer to themselves. So what I've heard from clients, they say the difference is a yoga class can help them feel really relaxed, wonderful, renourished. It's a reset, and they love that. There's so much value in that, but they're relying on that teacher and that group to go to that. When they come to see me, I'm really focusing on the gunas, the doshas. I'm looking at the 5 layers of the human body, and teaching them that. So now they're empowered. They have the tools to say, oh, I'm having this kind of day. This is a vata imbalance, or this is kapha. And they're learning so much more about themselves, and then they're empowered to make that change. And I have somebody in particular who's coming for grief, and she said, everybody wants to make me feel better. And she said, when she's in a yoga therapy session, I'm just seeing her, and that's what's needed, is just being seen is so healing. And then she can take that away. It's that one-on-one, that interpersonal neurobiology, which is so profound. So that's a huge difference in my perspective. So.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes, Laura.
Yeah, to just to reiterate that. Yeah, just I think the awareness I have going into sessions with individuals, and being able to just really see a broader picture, or at least try to kind of help facilitate that process within them to, as Mike Alkin would say, this coming from a place of compassion and curiosity. And so I love that part, the no right or wrong, just staying curious, and then being able to tailor treatment plans, or what have you, that will just kind of hopefully facilitate that process moving forward. And so just having that depth and breadth of knowledge is huge. It's so profound.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura. Yes, Maureen?
And I guess from the perspective of being a student of a yoga teacher and a student of a yoga therapist, the difference for me is when I go to a public asana class, There might be some pranayama, meditation, and every now and then, for lack of a better word, some yoga bombs where you talk about the Bhagavad Gita or the yamas and niyamas. But then when you have a relationship with a yoga therapist, you get to do the deep dive and you get to find out how the Bhagavad Gita applies to your life, how the Yoga Sutras can be a guide, specifically for you. And you have somebody who's there to chaperone and witness and hold up a mirror. And, there's some accountability there. So there's just this deeper dive that you learn a lot about yourself that you don't have the opportunity to do in a public asana class.
Thank you. Sarah.
Maureen hit that. She had pretty much said everything that I was thinking, even though I haven't had sessions with you. But although there is some intimacy between a teacher and a student, a yoga teacher, I think that the intimacy and the attunement between the yoga therapist and the student or client, whatever you want to say there, is much deeper, much closer, safer, and therefore you can do the deep dives into the svadhyaya. And it's amazing to me, in my experience, that you can even achieve that online with someone one-on-one. I didn't expect that to actually occur, and it's lovely when it does.
Yeah, I feel that too. Anything else? Any last thing that wants to be said? How would you feel if your friends and colleagues and cohort members took the training and became members of a new field expanding itself in the community? You would feel positive about that? Yeah. Yeah. More, as I said yesterday, more companions, more colleagues, more of us doing this. It does raise the visibility of the field. A little bit like, how did Reiki get to be so well regarded and insurance coverable and every other thing? There's more and more people who are doing it, and it became a thing that people hear about and seek out. So when we expand the field of who's providing, and we're here in Oregon and Washington, for example, when we expand the field of who's providing, we're going to expand the awareness in the community that it's something people can seek out. And your client base will actually get bigger. There's more of us doing the work. There's more community members who will seek out what it is that we're offering. So thank you very much for the conversation, everyone. Thank you, thank you. And thank you for the training and being here, just being intrepid over the last year. We've been through the COVID-19, racial riots, racial injustice, Oregon's wildfires, ice storm, loss of power, everything. We have been through so much, and you have been very, very intrepid. Thank you very much.